friends. It's almost midnight, and you found your way to the PikeCast. Come along as we careen through the catalog of the most formative horror writer of our young adult days, Christopher Pike. From adult perspectives, we'll revisit these YA books our parents probably would never have let us read had they known what lie inside. We tackle one book per episode in a freewheeling and unbiased chat. So grab your battered paperback, pull the flashlight from the kitchen drawer, climb under your bed covers, and devour a good book with us. Greetings, fellow Pikers, and welcome to the PikeCast, the Midnight Club. I'm Cooper Beckett, and I'm thrilled to be joined by my lovely co-hosts.
Hi, I'm Cassie.
Hi, I'm Becca.
We've switched formats for a while to cover Mike Flanagan's 10-episode Netflix adaptation of The Midnight Club. And this week, we're delving into episode 1, the final chapter. We're going to be going through the entire episode, but not beyond. So spoiler warning up through episode 1. If you enjoy the PikeCast, please leave us a review on the podcast service of your choice. So, Becca, welcome back.
Woo!
I'm so excited.
We're so happy to have you back.
Aww.
And we've decided to go sans guest for the TV series because Becca's back, and it's going to be a little different than with the books. And as I mentioned up top, we're not going to be talking about this in binge mode or overarching. This is going to be an episode at a time. So, I have only seen episodes 1 and 2.
Me too.
I think Becca's only seen episodes.
I watched the whole show. I binged it in like 8 hours or 10 hours or however long.
Immediately.
I just sat down and I was like, yes, it is my time.
I mean, I don't blame you. I would have if we were not doing this podcast. But I thought it would be best for me to not get ahead of myself because I have the biggest problem with remembering where I'm at if I'm talking about episode by episode.
I'm actually the same. So what I did was last night I watched the first 2 again, and then during each one I took extensive notes and then very hard lined it and was like, this is where this episode ends. And then the next one I took notes again so that I didn't get confused. So I'm trying to be really careful because I refuse to spoil this for anybody. So I'm like, you can only talk about what's here, nothing else.
So, as we don't have a guest, we don't have that first section where we usually talk about the guests. So in this case, I think we want to just start by going through the plot. So we are going to have our Remember Me section where we'll basically just go through the episode point by point. We'll talk about characters as they come up. We'll talk about moments, and then we'll go through a few other things after that. Okay, diving right in, it's 1994, which is the year The Midnight Club came out, and we meet Ilonka with a blood/hair dye fake out. Did you think she was trying to kill herself? Because I saw the suicidal warning on the beginning of the Netflix there.
I did think it was kind of a suicide thing. It was very gory seeming, and then the cut to the hair, and I was like, oh, I see.
Right. Okay, so Ilonka is played by Iman Benson.
Yeah.
I need to confess right off the bat, I'm not crazy about her.
Oh, I like her.
I've only seen 2 episodes, but I think she's iffy as an actress so far.
I think, so when I went into this, I was expecting the same level as when I went into Fear Street, which is like they're all teenagers. They're very clearly early starting career actors. So that's kind of how I felt about this too, because there were times when I was watching Fear Street that I was just like, wow, these are kids that have not worked a lot. And it's nothing bad because it's still kind of campy that way. But I did get that vibe a little bit as well from some of the things here. But then like, I as well, Ilonka in the book, I did not like as a character at all. So I was very excited that this one, like, I actually liked her characterization and that the changes they made.
And I do think that part of what's coloring my view of this so far is my experience with Mike Flanagan's work in the past. Everything feels so confident in his other stuff. And this feels a little less confident to me. But you could be right. It could just be that they're working with a lot of young people and a really impressively diverse cast. So, yeah, I'm going to give it time. Obviously, I'm not quitting or hate watching it, but I just wasn't impressed with her off the bat.
Mm-hmm. I'm with Cassie on this one because, like, in general, like, when I'm watching, I mean, the show takes place in the 90s, so, like, while I'm watching it, I'm, like, putting my brain back to the 90s of the shows I would watch in the 90s, and a lot of it was campy, which is, like, 100% what I'm here for. So, sure. I'm loving it. I'm straight up loving it. I'm going to be honest. I'm having a great time.
It's got, like, you know, like Clarissa explains it all, how, like, they're not, like, the best actors, but they were fun to watch, and they were their characters, like, in the show once you got used to them. So I think that's the case here, too, for me at least.
Cassie, I just love that sentence started with, you know, like, Clarissa explains it all.
That was a really good, like, example, because Clarissa is amazing.
Right at this time period.
I am nothing if not good at the 90s. Right. It's my thing.
So when Ilonka was at this college party, like I went into this with as little information as possible. I knew that we were going to be doing a full mix-up of Pike's work. I knew that there were some books that are being adapted in this, but I didn't know which ones. I immediately felt at this college party, are they going to do fucking Monster?
That's what I thought too. I was hoping, yes.
Yeah, I was just waiting for someone to come in with a shotgun, and it freaked me out, like just sitting there.
Oh my God.
And I know that's not even what he was probably going for. I mean, maybe, you know.
Maybe it was like a little nod for people who might have been expecting it. It's a fake out for us because we know.
I think one of the reasons I was irritated by Ilonka is as a character, English major to English major, let me explain Mary Shelley to you.
Okay, but honestly, I'm easy to please, okay? Because I loved it.
And not just that, too, but like, okay, Cooper, I think you're looking at this from an English major perspective. Like, you need to look at this from she's a 16 or 17-year-old girl. She's at a college party, totally out of her element. The one thing she knows and the one thing she's like well-versed at and good at and passionate about suddenly kind of comes up a little bit. And she's like, oh, shit. Like, that was so relatable for me as an autistic person because when she went into a long monologue about Mary Shelley, that to some guy who just glazed over his eyes, honestly, like, he's like, oh, no, yeah, I'm super into this, babe. No, you're not. We can see that. And like, I was so there for that because I was like, dude, this is so relatable. Like, I'm like, oh, fuck, I've been talking too long. I'm doing it right now. It's my life. It's like I've been going on for so long. And she got that moment too. And when I watched it, I was like, oh, I love her. Bless her.
Yes. I mean,
I guess I'm completely a different perspective from the two of you, and I get that. And I will not hate on her.
We have the teen girl thing on lock, me and Becca.
Yeah, totally.
We got the 90s babies, and we got Cooper.
Yes.
So
you can be a 90s baby if you want.
I mean, I am younger than the characters on this show, so there is that.
Wait, according to the time span? Really?
Yeah, because she's 18 in 1995.
Oh, yeah.
I was 18 in 1997.
Okay, but that's pretty close.
I mean, I'm very close. Yeah. Close enough to notice that Yahoo was not readily available as a search engine a year after it was launched.
There, and I will say there are some, like, there have been articles and stuff, not even in a spoiler context, but like that there are throughout the show, like a couple things, you know, like songs or stuff like that. That's just like not exactly time wise. But I'm usually very forgiving of that because I'm like, it's all 90s, give it to me. I love it.
You know, I think the argument could be made that there is a clock chiming in Julius Caesar, and there were no clocks at that time. So Shakespeare can use anachronisms, so probably Christopher Pike can too.
Yep, that logic checks out, and that's what I'm going to refer to anytime anybody points out a plot hole in anything I've written.
You should.
Shakespeare did it, so...
So we immediately get some movie cough, which is in the past has been consumption and tuberculosis. But here it is thyroid cancer. Remind me, ladies, it's been so long since I've read this book. Did we spend this much time outside of the outside of the hospice?
I feel like we were at the hospice like right away. Well, not right away. I mean, I feel like it might have had a little bit of a build up, but it wasn't
like she was the new kid, yes, but not like big setup new kid.
Not that I remember, or at least I don't remember it feeling as big of a plot point as it does here.
I mean, the book is like fairly short, so I feel like it would have been a while.
It is very short.
If they would have taken that much time to get her into the hospice. I mean, she did like research and everything before she went in. Yeah.
On an Apple IIe with dial-up internet, which is, that's a lot of fun. So we really quickly progress through this cancer. So there's the you have cancer moment, and we do have a very nice little speech with I'm good with odds. I'm number 2 in a class of 900, which is a very large class, by the way. And then we move on to 9 months later at the hospital where she's bald and celebrating her birthday. And then she's got maybe a year, maybe 2 left. So, what do you think of the visions in this episode?
Loves it.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm really easy to please. So it's like
No. It's fine. I am recognizing here that, I didn't consider this to be more of a Fear Street than
like Hill House.
Haunting of Hill House.
Yeah, no, it is. It's 100% more Fear Street than Hill House, but it's got Hill House vibes.
Yeah.
Which it feels more adult slightly than Fear Street did.
Mm-hmm.
So recognizing that, it is changing my perspective a little bit.
Oh,
nice! Look at what we did.
That's what I'm here for. I know, it's so good.
that is character development. I am definitely getting Michael Flanagan though, for sure. Like I can, yeah. Like I know, like I could tell.
Oh yeah, it feels like him from the moment you first see it. The house, the design, I am not crazy about the old man and woman ghost with the black eyes.
What? They're so creepy. I love them.
It just feels so cliche.
Yes, I love it. It's cliche for a reason because it is terrifying. Okay, if that lady was there coming at you like in the dark, you'd be like, I know, right? Like it's terrifying. And the fact that they keep doing it as a jump scare too, it gets me. Right. I was rewatching it and I was like, Rich, because he missed the first couple episodes because I was like, he was at work and I was like, I'm not waiting. I'm so sorry, but I'm not waiting. And so I started it. So last night, exactly. Last night he came and I was like, okay, we can watch the first 2 episodes. And he like got distracted and walked away, but then he came back and I was like, oh, watch this. You're going to see something spooky in the background. And he's like, oh, really? I was like, yeah, but you have to pay really close attention. And he's like looking at the TV and he's like, is this going to be a jump scare? And I was like, huh? And he starts leaning back. He's like, no. And then she did it and I jumped. It terrified me and not even him. Like so stupid.
So, like, speaking of, like, okay, so I'm sorry, Cooper, I'm about to get a little bit off track for just 1 second. But,
it's fine.
Aren't you glad to have me back?
Always.
But, like, yeah, like, when you have jump scares and you know that they're coming and they still get you, like, I know you guys have seen it, chapter 1, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, the scene that constantly gets me, no matter how many times I've seen this movie, because it's like one of my favorites, is the scene where like Beverly is going through some shit and she's in the bathroom and she turns around and Pennywise is standing there.
Yeah.
Every fucking time.
Wow. I mean, jump scares are incredibly effective. Like my partner noped out just before the big jump scare, marathon, which we'll talk about in a bit.
I'm so excited about that.
But she was just like, okay, this is not for me. Nope.
She's like, I can already tell. Nope.
Yeah.
I wonder which one got her, the first or the fifth one.
Oh well, I mean, she was ready to leave after the first glimpse of the old man in the mirror.
Yeah.
So yeah. So we're seeing the old man, we're seeing the old woman, we're seeing the hospice, we're seeing the boy on the cliff at night, which we find out is Kevin, and we're seeing the library, which I need to give Mike Flanagan all the credit here. That library looks identical to the book cover, and it's amazing.
It's so good. The way that they do the picture of the book cover, like in the show, like the way that they hint at it and you see that, it's so cool. Like I swear I was like screaming. I was like, like, oh my God, it looks like the book.
I mean, if there's one thing that can be said without question, this show fully respects Christopher Pike and loves Christopher Pike, and that's what the show is. And one thing that really excited me, and we'll talk about this more as we go on, is that the first episode and the second episode, the titles have different color schemes.
Yes.
And I assume that's going to go on throughout the series, which is really cool because Christopher Pike is known for that color scheme, and I think it's just great that they did that.
The font, didn't you? Okay, was it just me, or did y'all get like this nice feeling when you saw it the first time in the font on the? Oh my God! Like I swear to you, I was like shaking. I got goosebumps, and I was
it's like, you care, you care.
Yes, it was so good. It was so good. I was so happy. Also, wait, so are we going through the characters as we meet them in the show? Because if so,
yes.
Okay, can we go back to Budget Hopper, who is Tim, who I love? He give you Hopper energy, like the most Hopper energy.
Yes.
Yeah.
First, I thought he was Robert Longstreet, who is a frequent Mike Flanagan guy, and he was in Halloween Kills last year. But because he looks like him, but it's not him. He's got another part in the series. And then I thought, well, he looks like David Harbour. I mean, come on. But yes, he is Budget Hopper. Yes.
He has the same Papa vibes too. Like not like Papa, but like the daddy, like
no,
I'm
I know
here
what
to care for you, my daughter. Like, and it was so sweet. I don't remember them like from the book. I don't remember her having a very close Hopper-y sort of person. Like, I don't know if I just forgot that.
I feel like in my memory, and again, I have not revisited the book because, as you may remember, I didn't like it. But I feel like this was because we were casting a person of color in the role, and Ilonka's first and last name, Pollock, are very Polish, and they wanted to give us a reason that she would have those names but be a person of color, so we got the foster child thing.
The adoption stuff, yeah. No, and that does make sense, but I feel like even so, they could have just explained that and then not have him be such an important part or like so close with her, because they have like a bond. You can see that even from the first episode, they're really close, like when she's going through the sick and stuff. Like, so I just feel like that was a really cool thing for them to put such a focus on, because I don't remember it being...
No, I don't either. I mean, knowing Pike, it's usually absentee parents, so...
Right, exactly. Yeah, they're usually not a focal point in the stories.
Right. So let's go to Brightcliffe Hospice. I wanted to call out the fact... I read an interview with Flanagan where he talks about the buildings in his work, because obviously Bly Manor and Hill House are, and I mean, you go to the Overlook Hotel, and they're all so important that the buildings have the character. And he said after Hill House, they stopped looking for actual places. So all the exteriors are digital.
Mm-hmm.
The interiors are all sets, obviously, but I thought that was really something, that the exteriors are all digital and how you can't even fucking tell anymore.
No.
Like, there's no moment where I'm looking at that house and thinking, oh, that's just a special effect.
No, it's super convincing.
No. So then we meet the boy on the cliff from the visions, except it's during the day. His name is at once Leukemia and then Kevin. And Kevin is look, he was this in the book and he's this in the show. He is your stereotypical, I'm pretty cool, I've been here a while, I know what's going on, let me help you out. Also, I'm cute and might be your boyfriend in the future. Right?
I'm trying so hard to remember if I liked him in the book because I really liked him in the show.
Remember in the book, he was a lot more sickly than when we meet him in the show. And then he also was super into painting.
Yes.
Remember he painted those really cool, like, the oceans and the space stuff.
And right.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was him. And I thought that was cool, but I also, like, I personally kind of remember his story in the book being like some like weird thing about an angel and forgiveness and a woman that the angel was in love with. Do you remember that kind of like from the book?
And there was painting in the story.
Yes. Right? And I remember
was it in Paris?
No, the Paris, I think one where there was a shooting from the Eiffel Tower, remember? And I can understandably, I can see why they left that out of the adaptation. Like, yeah, for sure. That was Spencer's story. And that was because he was, in the book, he has, I believe it's AIDS, and he felt like he was at risk of killing everybody around him. Like he felt like he was, so he was like,
So Kevin is played by Igby Rigney.
I like that.
Which is a hell of a name.
That is
and
great.
I love it. I think he's great. He does play a very stereotypical character in this kind of show. I think he does a great job.
A majority of the actors in this are also going to be in his next show too, the Fall of the House of Usher.
Well, that's not surprising. He has a troupe more than anybody else I've ever seen.
Definitely. But I think it's cool that he's branching out into more young people who have not acted before and now bringing them into his little universe. Like, that's a really cool thing.
Yeah.
We briefly meet Zach Gilford playing Mark, the nurse practitioner. And Zach Gilford, speaking of Flanagan's other work, he has been in other Flanagan projects.
Mm-hmm.
We find out Ilonka Smart Girl explains the Brightcliffe hospice to the nurse practitioner. It was built in 1901 by a logging industrialist. It became a halfway house. It became the home of the Paragon cult. And then it became the hospice. And here's where she sees the creepy old woman and then passes out. And she wakes up to Heather Langenkamp.
Yay!
Playing Dr. Stanton far more menacingly than Dr. Stanton. Because Dr. Stanton in the book was the good guy, right? We kept waiting for him to be a bad guy, but he was really a good guy.
I think so. I believe so, yeah.
Yeah. So her vibe, I can't tell because, and this obviously, Cassie, as the person who binged it, you can't tell me, but her vibe seems a bit menacing, and I don't know if we're just supposed to have that perspective to worry about her, or if she's actually going to be menacing. So that's an interesting dynamic there.
I'm only getting good vibes, to be honest. I'm really that dumb. But
I only got good vibes when I was watching it too. I was oh my God, look, Nancy's here to save the fucking day, everybody.
Wow, okay, yeah. So I totally read her performance as just like, you've rehearsed what you're saying, so you sound kind. Wow, okay. Interesting. Then we let's do our tour. This is a beautiful set. Those round pillars in the hallways. My God, that's gorgeous. We see the former patient's hall, which, boy, they're leaning hard into this. They call it the ghost tour. Ha ha. Yeah, maybe this place is haunted. Think about that. The place may be haunted. You know, those of you who read the book, this place may be haunted. The book wasn't haunted, but this place may be haunted.
I'm getting flashbacks to the book episode now. Like, I'm starting to remember it.
And here's where we meet a bunch of the kids. We meet Spence, who is played by William Chris Sumter. We meet Natsuki, Anya Furukawa. We meet Sandra, who is the religious nut, as we had in the book. And she is Anara Simone. Everyone's got complicated names. My God. And Amesh, who is happy not to be the new kid anymore. Serian Sapkoda. I don't know why I'm reading all these names.
I feel like we should have watched an interview ahead of time.
Yeah.
Heard them introduce themselves so we weren't butchering them.
I feel bad. I'm butchering the names. And these kids are all good. Especially Amesh. I really like the...
he and Anya were my two, from like the first few episodes on. Like,
100%.
My two favorites.
He and Anya steal this show.
Mm-hmm.
I really like his... I'm happy not to be the new kid. I really liked his... I'm just waiting for the hazing to start.
He really wanted that hazing.
Yeah, it's good stuff. We find our old elevator to the basement / morgue, which is a cool, sobering reaction, right? Then we meet two more characters. Cherie, the cello player and also liar. And she is played by Adia. No last name needed.
Mm-hmm.
This episode has wall-to-wall 90s music. And it started to get old to me. Like,
no, Cooper, there's we don't like that.
Wow.
You're being a negative Nancy.
Negative Nancy.
Hey, okay, look, I'm gonna lay my cards on the table. This first episode did not grab me. Because this first episode was everything I hated about the book, honestly.
I was grabbed so hard.
Dude, I picture me and Becca just sitting here giving you thumbs down and like these, Leslie Knope when she's upset and she has that grumpy, mean, sad frown face. We're doing that to you, shaking our heads. No, yep, exactly. Okay. That's me and Becca right now.
Yeah, Ron Swanson.
That's
yes.
Did you just call me Swan Suck? Oh my God. I thought this was a safe place to have opinions.
No, it is. It is, but when the opinion is too much 90s music, come on.
That is a bad opinion.
Okay.
That hurts my soul.
Let me make a deal with you.
Opinions, but not that one.
If they had not played Flagpole Sitta at the end of this episode, which is definitely not a mid-90s song. It's a late 90s song. I would have been happier. How about that?
It's that one song that
really one song ruined it. Yeah, that one song was it. Yeah. So, okay. We meet Anya. I want to talk about Anya, played by Ruth Codd.
Yes, let's talk about her.
She is again playing a fairly stereotypical character. And we've all talked about how Pike uses archetypes. And her archetype is the very cynical, very over it all. Ilonka calls her on this at some point. But she plays it so well and so interestingly. And she is just an interesting performer in every way. And so she is the MVP of this episode. And I'm imagining this for as long as she lasts. I don't remember if Anya dies.
I'm pretty sure that this is like her first acting experience too, because she's like famous on like TikTok and stuff. Yeah. And so they found her on like TikTok, and she normally posts about having a disability and living without one leg. And
really?
So that's like, that's her. That's legitimate. Like, so they picked an actor who does have like that. And so I thought that was really cool, because when I was watching her, when she's, moving and stuff, and I was like, oh, I wonder if they hired somebody specifically to act like this, or if they intentionally searched for an actor who could fit this. And wow. I think they did that, which was really cool. And she's so good.
She's so good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's wild that it's her first thing.
Hey, and she's also in the Fall of the House of Usher.
Yes,
right,
she is.
Well, I know. I mean, she was wonderful. And I'm very excited to see more of her as we get into the series. There's a lot of foreshadowing here. There's the living shadow got Rachel, the last guest in Ilonka's room with Anya, and then everybody else hears these stories about the living shadow. It's like, okay, are we just assuming that? Because if everybody's hearing the stories about the living shadow, maybe there's a living shadow. I bet there's going to be a living shadow.
Sorry, I don't think we actually touched on this specifically, but I don't know if we mentioned, but the reason that she even chose to come to this place is because she was doing research, and she found out that there was a girl from the 60s who had her exact type of cancer and got cured after being there and disappearing for a week or whatever. So she read that on the computer, and that's when she was like, okay, now this is the place I have to go. So that's why she was so insistent, because I think without that bit of information, it doesn't make sense why she would want to go there.
Sure. I mean, we find that out more later, though.
Well, I mean,
it happens in the beginning.
Yeah, it happens in the. She's on the computer. Yeah.
Remember Yahoo?
Yeah,
I remember Yahoo. Yes.
The jump scare is like right there too. That lady, because she wakes up in the creepy place. Which, by the way, who in a hospital has just like an open computer access and it just leaves her in this room by herself in the dark to peruse the internet in Yahoo all night?
It's the Halloween 2 problem. Hospitals are never dark. They just aren't. So,
no, that's a good point. I didn't think about that.
Every time we see a dark hospital, it's 100% to create ambiance in a horror project.
Well, it did, because that jump scare fucking got me.
Oh, yeah, it was scary. I really loved the quick vision of everybody dead at the table.
Yes.
That was really creepy.
That was,
and also our first real callback to the cover, because everybody is sitting around the table and death is at the other end of it. And I think death is Heather Langenkamp.
Are we bullying her again?
Bullying. Hey, Heather Langenkamp can hold her own. She does not worry about being bullied by me.
We've seen how many things Nancy has survived.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. She can handle herself. Let's take a commercial break. So we'll be right back with more from the PikeCast. Friends, where else can you get this kind of programming than the PikeCast? Nowhere, that's where. But we're trying to keep the lights on here. If you like what you're hearing and want it to keep happening, jump over to our Patreon at thepikecast.com/Patreon and throw us a few bucks to join our private Discord server. Higher tiers get books, stickers, bookmarks, and even personalized shirts. That's thepikecast.com/Patreon.
Once, Osgood and Frost were the up-and-coming stars of the burgeoning paranormal investigation TV show craze before a hoax put an end to their friendship, partnership, and television careers. Now, over a decade later, Prudence Osgood is a barely functioning alcoholic ghost hunter for hire. Her yearning for mystery and adventure is reignited when she receives a cryptic, untraceable email. She can't resist embarking on an investigation that tugs threads, winding through a sinister series of disappearances, her former partner's family, and a night 20 years ago when a semi blew a yellow light and nearly killed her. Reviewers are calling Osgood Is Gone a masterfully vulnerable and relatable 21st century horror story, and a bourbon-soaked supernatural mystery with sparkling dialogue that sticks the landing on LGBT characters, and main character Prudence Osgood, as tortured as she is clever, broken in all the best ways, and a true heroine for our times. Buy it today at Osgood Is Gone as a paperback, ebook, or audiobook narrated by me, JJ Ronvier.
Welcome back to the PikeCast.
I'm really glad that they're playing. I know we just talked about this a few minutes ago, but I'm glad they're playing up the book cover, because the book cover, if I recall correctly, is what originally wanted me to read Midnight Club.
Yeah.
I read the book, and it was a disappointment.
And so that's interesting, too, is because the book itself, I think the reason we were so disappointed is because the cover looks so fucking scary, and the book is just sad. But this is actually scary, so I'm like, yes, like you nailed it.
No, this is delivering on the promise of the book and the book
Absolutely.
jacket.
100%.
Because the book did not.
No, it didn't. And I mean, that's not to say it was a bad story. I know Cooper and Becca, I know you guys didn't really like it. And honestly, it's not my favorite, but that's just because I prefer the scarier ones. But it has its place. And I know that a lot of people have a really soft spot for the book, and it has meant a lot to a lot of people going through their own thing. So it definitely has its place. But for an adaptation, I'm so glad they didn't lean into how the book actually was and went more scary with it.
Well, I mean, I thought there were two ways they could go with this. I was thinking they could go the way of just having them be kids telling stories, but that would be weird if it was just kids telling stories.
I would still watch it.
It was just like, are you afraid of the dark?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was like prepared for that sort of vibe.
True.
Yeah.
But I'm glad This is a hope of mine, and this is since I haven't seen further. I do hope that all of Ilonka's stories don't revolve around the hospice. because the way she wraps up this episode, it seems like all her stories are going to be about that place. And I'm not crazy about that. And Cassie is quiet.
No, it's not. I'm not going to say quiet. On. No. I was thinking about what you're saying. So I'm trying to think of how to word things without referencing anything else.
Spoiling,
So what I think for this episode specifically and for the story she chooses, I totally get what you're saying. But I think the reason that this would have been her go-to for this moment is because, first of all, she had no idea that this was even a thing. And she's being like kind of challenged by Anya, who's like, drink girl, you're not in the club, you know? And then she's like, well, I've got something to prove. What's the most recent, like kind of creepy thing that I sort of can embellish on and make into a story that might creep these people out? So,
okay. Yeah, no, I get that.
Yeah, so I think it for that. I'm not saying whether or not like she continues or anything like that, but I'm just saying I think for this specifically, because she's new to this place, it's kind of fresh in her brain. Like I would maybe think of that.
And I mean, we as we find out, it's exactly why she came here. So yeah, it's not only fresh in her brain, but it's probably what she's been obsessing about.
Exactly.
So let's get to the Midnight Club. Ilonka wakes up to Anya leaving and follows her to the library. I initially didn't realize that the bedrooms were on the second floor and thought they were going to the basement because she was in the elevator. Why would they put a girl in a wheelchair on the second floor? There's bound to be rooms on the first floor. That seems weird to me.
I think the place only has like a total of like 8 rooms, like bedrooms. Okay. And I think the first, because when she's first, so I'm a nerd and I paused the screen when they were first talking about the place, when he had the pamphlet and he was in the hospital with her in the first episode and she's like, this is where I want to go. I paused it and was reading about and it's got information, like it legit does, and about the doctor, like, and it talks about like really? her accomplishments and stuff. Like,
so it's not just one of those things where if you read it, you find inside jokes from the prop masters.
And there are not, that I found, any nods toward other books or anything, because that's what I was looking for, because I'm like looking, I'm like micro focusing on every single aspect, trying to find things. But yeah, so I thought that was cool. And but it did explain, I think that it said there were like 8 rooms. So I think it makes sense, especially if it's like a hospital type place, not a hospital, but a hospice where they need medical equipment and things, that they would have that at ground level.
Right. No, that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it looks like that like the more intensive care need people are on the ground floor.
The recovery rooms, yes. Yeah.
So Ilonka sneaks down, follows them, and hides to listen. And she's in a very cute pink onesie.
She reminded me of Louise.
Yes. I loved the comment about, I think it was about Amesh's stories. Half your stories are just old episodes of Doctor Who. And that's the second Doctor Who reference in the episode, because there's a fucking Doctor Who pinball machine down there with Sylvester McCoy really front and center. Silence. Okay.
Sorry, I was like, where was the pinball? But it was when they meet Amesh,
It was in the gaming room. Yeah, when they meet Amesh.
Yeah. I was like, where did you see a pinball machine? I don't remember.
Yeah, there was like 2 arcade games.
Yes, and then the beanbag chairs and stuff.
And the beanbag chairs, yes.
Those beanbags look so uncomfortable, by the way. Like
they do, and they do not put you anywhere near playing the video games.
No, yeah. He's just like sitting uncomfortably holding himself up.
Stool.
Hello, friends. How are you? I'm comfortable and relaxed in this position.
Look at me being relaxed. So there were... You're going to keep calling me nitpicky, but I'm concerned about 3 phrases. Meh, phrasing, and don't yuck my yum.
Okay. Look, I think you're going to have to give a little bit of leeway to the fact that they have to bridge the gap between how teens were in 1994 and how teens are today. And if they were not to do that, teens today would not like this. They did the same thing in Fear Street, where they had some lingo that was like, nobody said this.
No, I know. It's just, it takes me out of it. It's like,
that's fair.
It's like in The Wedding Singer, when that takes place in literally a year called the 80s. Because anything in the 80s can happen at any moment in The Wedding Singer.
I think... sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to ask, what is wrong with Don't Yuck My Yum? Like, what year was that from?
Well, Don't Yuck My Yum is a fairly modern phrase.
Is it?
Yeah.
It sounds like it belongs in the 90s.
It really does, yeah.
I mean, no, but it doesn't matter. Ultimately.
Okay, so I think you're watching this from the lens of somebody who's lived through those decades, so you know
that's true.
what the lingo.
Yeah.
Right, whereas people watching it today who maybe haven't, though, and also have not experienced Pike books are like, okay, this is something set in the 90s. What are the 90s like? But if it was all like, that's fat, and this is like, how bad, you know, like stuff like that, like they would just be like, this is so stupid and cringy, I can't watch this. Like, I would feel like that at some points personally, and I was there using those words. So I feel like there are some adjustments that have to be made just as a storyteller to make an adaptation, or just translate anything from a different time period in general, because it would just be weird and like cringy.
I get it.
I'm not saying you're wrong for feeling the way you do, and I'm not saying it doesn't take you out of it, but I do think that it wouldn't take other people out of it. Like, who have not lived through those.
Here's what I'm saying is, since I've already said I didn't particularly like this episode overall, I think these things go to why.
Yeah.
If I had binged the show, I think a lot of this would be less important.
Right.
Because I wouldn't be focused on, because I don't watch shows like this anymore, you know?
Yeah.
Where I watch one episode and think about it a lot.
Yeah,
so
it's a weird thing.
It is. I love the moment where we sat through 3 full nights of your angel porn. Because that's a direct reference to a story from the book.
Yeah, that made me think that they were going to tell that specific story.
No, I think that's so they don't have to tell that story.
That's what, yeah. When I was watching this, I was like, "Wait, is that all? Is that it? Is it good? Are they good?" Because I didn't like that story from the thing. So in this episode, I was like, "Okay, good. Does this mean that's all we're going to get?" They're telling that they don't like the angel porn either.
There will not be more of the angel porn story.
I mean, she already told her story, so I'd be surprised if she's like, let me repeat the story.
Yeah.
Or add more to the angel porn.
Well, she did keep going in the book. She just kept telling that story.
Yeah. Remember, it lasted for so long.
Yeah, it was like 5 times, I think. It was ridiculous. Was
it actually porny?
I don't think so. It was like, the lady was like in love with I don't know, dude.
It was horny, but it wasn't horny in the good Pike way. It was horny in the, so what Pike way.
So like Twilight, but with angels?
Yeah, sort of. Yeah, that's closer.
I'm sorry, I don't remember. Like I vaguely remember angels.
Hey, let me put it this way, Becca. You'd remember it if it was better.
You are true. Yeah, you are telling the truth there.
So, instead, we get Natsuki goes first and tells us a story that is nearly 100% jump scares, which is hard to do when you're telling a story. You know, it's easy to do as a TV show, but hard to do as a storyteller. It's a boy walking home lost in a neighborhood, and then there's a screaming Asian girl, and keeps popping up.
I think it's cool that they play the people in their stories, like the kids
I like that.
Telling the stories. Yeah, I didn't because we didn't get to spend a lot of time with Spencer at first, and I have a little bit of facial blindness, so I didn't even realize until he was like started like yelling and getting attacked. So I was like, oh, okay, this is another actress just walking down the street, and then he starts like yelling, and I was like, oh shit, they have the same people. And then I saw the girl, and I was like, oh, this is so cool.
Right.
I was like, oh, I hope everything is going to be like this.
And I think that's the plan overall. Yeah, it's and. This is fun. This episode won a Guinness World Record for most scripted jump scares in a single episode of television. And
would it have like 21 or something, or 22?
I knew that going in, but I didn't know it was just going to be literally, here's all the jump scares. It was kind of wild, and leads to Natsuki on the table crawling around screaming at people. Like that's delightful. I really like that. And of course, Ilonka knocked something over. Better to reveal herself to the group. And they called it out. The story finally devolved into a bunch of bullshit jump scares. So they had their cake and ate it too. They did the jump scares, and then they called out how bullshit jump scares are. That's great. That's great.
I absolutely love that, because I feel like I feel like we're like kind of pointing fun.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I could not think of words just now, but like at the fact that like a lot of people, when it comes to horror movies, they'll complain about the jump scares,
right?
And I feel like this is like definitely an example of that. And then they like made fun of it themselves. Like, I mean, I'm here for it, buddy.
Yeah, and it's clear that it's always been a favorite thing of Mike Flanagan, the jump scare. Yeah. He's very good at it. It's not just cheap in his stuff. So it was great to have really, really cheap jump scares for a good long while. So Ilonka is told that she has to put up or shut up here and drink some of the wine, drink the contraband. So she's part of the group. And then she tells the Julia Jane story, which Julia Jane was a patient at the hospice, had the same cancer as Ilonka, obsessed on her death date, but then vanishes from the hospice and returns a month later cured, but knowing the dates of other people's deaths. That was a very effective story, I thought.
Did you, at this point, did either of you... did you think her character was going to be something else? Like, did you think they were building her up to be a specific character from one of the books?
I wondered if Julia Jane was a character from one of the books.
Because when they said her name Julia, I thought of girl Julia from Witch, and sure. I thought that it was going to tie to her, and somehow Witch was going to be integrated into the main story.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So that's what I was expecting. Like, by the end of this episode, I was like, oh, shit, like, Julia, that's Witch. I know that. Like, I'm here for this. Like, that's what I thought. Oh, you know what's so funny, too, is when I read that name, I was like, haha, it's got alliteration. Cooper's going to love that.
It doesn't bother me as much in visual media because I don't have to look at it. I hate alliteration when I have to look at it.
I picture when I say words or when people speak to me, I picture the words in my head. So
really? Okay.
And so I always have. So I literally picture it. Yeah, it's wild.
So here's where Ilonka makes her pitch. And this is sort of the pitch for the series. There are so many stories about this place, and she will tell them. That's the series pitch. There are ghosts here. You should come back and watch some of them, right?
Yeah, I think there's like a note about them being like sick and stuff too, because she has that like where she's just like, we're all stories in the end, like super dramatic and stuff. So I think that was like that brought back a little bit of the melancholy from the book itself in less of the scare, which I thought was cool.
And
I really enjoyed the making ghost line.
Oh, yeah.
I'd much prefer saying making ghosts because it sounds better. I don't exactly remember the words.
Yeah, no, we're making ghosts. Yeah, because
I just thought you said love making ghosts. I thought you said I loved the love making ghosts. I was like, wait, I missed that. Hang on, I need to rewatch again. Did you guys think it was interesting that they added new characters that weren't in the book though, like to the main Midnight Club?
No, I figured it's just you gotta round out the if you have a certain amount of stories you want to tell, you probably want a certain amount of people to tell those stories.
That's fair.
And here's the thing about the Midnight Club is people were dying in the Midnight Club. So as a new viewer on episode 1, I don't know who's going to make it through this series just by virtue of the fact that they're all terminal.
That's fair. So you feel like by having extra characters, that makes more people that could be expendable like later on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Especially now that there are ghosts in the place, someone could die from a ghost instead of cancer.
I was surprised by it. I don't dislike it. And like a lot of the changes that are made eventually, as we'll discuss, I'll probably repeat this a lot, that I don't dislike it, but I was taken by surprise because I was expecting it to follow at least the main cast of characters because they're so like in the book they have such a focus. I didn't know that they were going to like try to switch out from that. So when we got introduced to these different people, I was like, oh, like who is this? What's going to happen here? So I thought that was like, it was kind of cool, but it was also a little bit like, oh fuck, I thought I knew this story. Now I don't know what's going to happen here. It's good that even for people who have read the books and who have loved this for a long time, like there's stuff that we can get to that we aren't expecting.
Right. It makes it exciting for like new watcher, or I guess not really. We're all new watchers, but like people who are very familiar with.
Yeah.
New pikers and seasoned pikers alike.
Yeah. Exactly. So we end this episode with Kevin revealing that he's spent enough time in the Hall of Ghosts to recognize the name Julia Jane, which is a picture on the wall of one of the groups, of one of the midnight clubs, theoretically. And Ilonka makes the very intense statement that she plans to live. So we figured that.
Bless her.
Yeah, good.
It's so sad too. Like, if you just, these teens just want to live, and they're just grasping at anything they can. Like, it's her last hope. She sees this thing on Yahoo and is just like, I've got to go here. Like, this is it.
I've got to go here because someone survived. Yeah. I mean, it is a full grasping at straws. It
is. And I think it's like a good way to convey that desperation, because you don't really have it. Like, she's exhausted all of her other options. So at this point, like, it might seem a little kooky to, quote unquote, normal people, but for her, she's like fully invested because this is all she's got.
So that's the plot. Now we move into the Eternal Enemy, where we talk about this week's monsters.
Is it the old people?
I mean, really, the old people showing up, they're kind of the monsters here.
I would just argue the monster in this one is cancer.
Oh, true.
That was the monster in the book, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a pretty big villain, honestly.
Or just death, because I don't think they all have cancer, right?
Well, no, I mean, Spence has AIDS.
Yeah. So yeah. So, and yeah.
Yeah, death.
The big bad is death. Yeah. Okay, that's fair. I mean, we don't really get a monster. We do have Natsuki's screaming Asian ghost, but yeah, the monsters. There's not a whole lot going. So this week's monster is officially death.
Yeah, which is nice for that to be the first episode, because as a whole, I'm assuming for the whole series.
Yeah.
Death is going to be the big bad.
I mean, the back of Death's head is on the book cover. The back of Death's head is in the show. So, yeah.
Yes. It's my new death metal band, The Back of Death's Head.
Back of Death's Head. That's a pretty good one.
I'm your number one
fan. Next, let's talk Magic Fire, which is special VFX and makeup. As we mentioned, the house is externally as VFX. We didn't have a lot of showy stuff in this episode, but
the dead kids with the Reaper, whatever, ghost demon, whatever he is, death.
Yeah,
that was cool.
Yeah, that was.
It was dark though. That one was. I can imagine if you've. Like, just putting myself in a weird perspective that I'm not in. If I had a child who was a teenager who was maybe in a hospice or something and who had died, like if I was watching that, I'd be like, dude, I don't want to see this ever again.
I feel like if you have a child in hospice, you're probably not watching this show.
No, yeah, and that's totally fair. But I just mean that scene was just so dark. No, it was
that was a dark moment, and
you can see like their gear and stuff, like her breathing stuff. Like, it was sad, but it was good. It was a good scene.
I like the shadows. I mean, it's a very simple effect, but it's nice. There wasn't a lot of showy VFX or makeup in this episode, except for really the old people,
who were very terrifying and cool. Grandma and Grandpa are out here fucking us up.
Did we get much thirst in this episode? Not really.
We had that one awkward moment at the college party where they were trying to flirt, but ended up just talking about school. So.
Oh yeah, because the friend was out to make a poor decision tonight.
Yeah, dude, her friend dancing too. We didn't even talk about this, but just the one mention of her friend walking up to some normal person getting their own beer and being like, "I'd like this vodka and soda, please," or whatever she said. Like, that was hilarious. I started cackling, and it was believable because she's young. She's never been it was believable, but it was so funny to me.
It was also a very fancy college party.
Yeah. I mean, I think that it's just the college party seemed to line up with Pike's idea of college parties, though, right?
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking. I immediately turned to my partners and said, I bet Mike Flanagan hasn't been to a whole lot of college parties either.
Or he's just trying to honor Pike's idea.
So either Mike is a nerd himself, which I think is the true thing, or he's just trying to revel in Pike's nerdiness.
And just to be clear to any listeners, we mean that lovingly, because we are also nerds ourselves.
Yes,
we were at home,
weren't
not going to parties.
Or like the definition
This
of
is
that,
what we imagined parties looked like, but we never went to them.
No, and then if we ever did happen to go to a party, it was not like that. We were disappointed.
Very, very much not that. Okay, so I'm going to ask you to give me your favorite moments for this replaces our season of passage section. Do you have a favorite moment from episode 1?
I got some.
Okay, you go first.
Okay, so I have like all my notes in front of me. So we already talked about Mary Shelley. A+. Wait, do you want like the spooky scenes or just like anything?
Anything. What stood out for you?
So we didn't mention like when they're giving the ghost tour and he's like, this new agey thing, yoga. I just thought that was funny.
I forgot about that. Yeah, that was funny.
I forgot until I looked at my notes. I also want to tell you, Cooper, in my notes, it says, okay, yeah, soundtrack slaps. Really love the 90s. I just want to let you know.
Man, when I was live tweeting about it, I was like, the music, the clothes, I love this.
I love it. I also have written down, don't yuck my yum.
As a favorite thing? Really? Did you two just write down everything I disliked as your favorite things?
I think so.
Okay. It just happens to work out that way, which is why we're such a good balanced team.
No, that really, that is a plus. So.
Yes. But my other two favorite scenes we've already talked about. I really liked the jump scares and like them calling out the fact that they're like lazy and whatever because I thought that was fun. And I also enjoyed. Sorry, I'm like rehashing everything we talked about. These are just my favorite. But like I did like the story of like Julia knowing the dates of death. I thought that was very creative, and I really vibed with it because that'd be terrifying.
Yeah, definitely.
To like have that much knowledge. So basically, my favorite things we already talked about. I just wanted to tell you guys I really liked it.
The whole episode, your favorite things, yeah.
All of it, 100%.
I actually really liked it. Yeah. It was a good setup, I think, for the rest of the season.
How about you, Cassie?
So my favorite parts, I really liked in the beginning where after she dyes her hair and she walks in and her dad are having their breakfast or dinner. I don't know what time of day it is, but she's wearing like these boots and this like dress with like little flowers on it. And she's got like these little clip-ins all over her hair. And it is such a good iconic
90s.
Fashion moment. So very good. Yes. 90s, like it is perfect. Yeah. So that is like one of my favorite parts. And then also, let's see. Again, when they, it's just because it was funny, is when the girl's like, "Can you get me this drink?" And he's like, "I'm not a bartender."
No. There was a really angry girl standing next to him.
Oh yes.
He's not a bartender.
Because she was like probably sitting there flirting with him, and this other girl walks up and is just like, "Please, a beverage? Excuse me." So I really like that, and then I was really excited for Heather Langenkamp's like appearance, her main thing. So I was just like waiting the whole beginning of the episode to see her, even though we got like the little picture on the pamphlet and on the website and stuff.
Right.
And then aside from that, just the cover recreation. Like they did it 2 times. Like one time they did it without the bodies or the kids. Sorry, that was weird because they were dead, to be fair, but without the kids. And then the second time was with the kids, and I just both of them, because the first one I was like, oh shit, I know this, and then I was like, okay, I guess that's all I'm gonna get. And then they did it again, even darker, and I was just like so here for it. So that was it was very exciting for me. Great. Yeah, loved it.
I will say, hands down, my favorite moment is finally devolved into a bunch of bullshit jump scares. I mean, that is right there. That is, you're calling attention to it, and I like that because you recognize it then, and that's fine, And the sat through 3 full nights of your angel porn, that really tickled me. I like that a lot. Let's talk about Last Act, where we do our final thoughts and rating out of 5 pikes. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay.
I volunteered, but I wasn't prepared. Hang on, let me think. Okay. Okay. So I think I will give this one. I will give it 4 pikes and a pamphlet to Brightcliff Hospice for sick bodies. And then I will.
Sick bodies.
Well, maybe they're not all kids. I don't know what the age range is, or like.
No, that's true. But I think it is specifically for teens.
What if they're 19 and then they live longer than they're expected, and then they become 21 in this place?
Either they have to kill them or they have to leave the hospice.
Okay. Okay, good. I like it.
They're going to go up on the Atstupa in, like from Midsummer.
Oh my God.
That's how that works.
Yeah, no, that, and then somebody's going to be there with a big hammer just in case.
Oh, it's the cliff behind the hospice. That's what happens if you turn 20.
Oh my God. Okay. I really liked it. I liked almost everything about it. The one thing I will say is just, it's a little bit of a lot of setup in the very beginning, especially her figuring out that she's sick, to lead up to that, which I understand. I think it's necessary, and it does, add some believability, builds up her character and stuff like that, so that you know her state of mind. But for me, it's just that took up a lot of the episode compared to like when we're actually in there. And I know there's a whole rest of the show, so again, it's still got a very high rating, but I would have liked a little bit closer to starting in the manor.
Yeah. Becca, how about you?
Okay. It's been a while since I've got to do Pikes. I'm gonna give it 4 days of angel porn.
Whoa, okay.
I don't want to like repeat everything Cassie just said. I just agree with everything she just said. It was a really good episode. However, there was a lot of setup, and I do feel like the setup was good. So, like, I don't know. Like, I feel like it's a pretty solid start to the whole series.
All right. Now, I'm going to be the naysayer here. But it's not a big naysay. I'm giving
Leslie
it 3.
No Face.
I'm giving it 3 Pikes. And I'm giving it 3 Pikes because of all the Mike Flanagan stuff I've seen, this hour has been my least favorite. And I was very excited about this. So that took me aback. I was a little surprised. But I trust Mike Flanagan, and I know that this episode is almost 100% set up. So, therefore, I'm in it. I'm in it for the long haul. He's got me. Just, I'm looking forward to more confident episodes that aren't in introducing everybody. I think that's fair.
That's fair.
Okay, let's do our wrap up then. Becca, tell our listeners where they can find more of you online.
Okay. I can be found on Instagram at ReadWithBex, where I post about books. On Twitter at AsToldByBex. TikTok at AsToldByBex. And I just opened up an Etsy shop with my sister called Leaping Lily Creations.
Oh, yay.
Yeah, which you can find, okay. There's a lot to unpack here. So we sell book sleeves and stickers and all that fun stuff. And on Twitter, we are Leaping Lily C. And then everywhere else, we're Leaping Lily Creation.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
Cassie, how about you?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at ControlAltCassie, CTRLALTCASSIE. I also have an Etsy shop and a Patreon, and my Etsy shop is shopletsgetgalactic.com. My Patreon is patreon.com/letsgetgalactic. I make a lot of art. I make a lot of books. I make a lot of different things. You should be my friend.
And they're all very Lisa
You're
Frank.
You're a pro at them.
I'm so good at advertising, right?
Creepy Lisa Frank right over here.
I know. It's true. Yep.
You can find me at coopersbeckett.com, and I'm all over social media at Cooper S. Beckett. Warning to our listeners, at the moment I am promoting my new sex education book, so if that makes you a little uncomfortable, maybe you don't want to follow me for a little while. Just putting that out there. Cassie, where can they find our show online?
You can find us everywhere at the PikeCast, and we would really like it if you would show pictures of your own books, or now that the show is out, you can share selfies in front of your TV if that's your jam. And you can tag us at Show Us Your Bike. No, hashtag Show Us Your Bike. Look, it's been a while. We had a little bit of a hiatus,
it has been a while, yes.
We're getting back into the swing, but we're happy to be here. We also have a Patreon. It's patreon.com/thepikecast. You'll get early access to our episodes, and you get access to our Discord, which we use all the time to talk about a lot of fun things, mainly Pike, but there's also other stuff sometimes. If you sign up, you'll get some free goodies like stickers and bookmarks made by me. Woo!
Woo indeed.
Woo.
All right. So you don't have homework other than watch the next episode.
Yes.
That's how we're doing it this time. And since we have changed our format, we are going to try, I'm saying try because we are human, to give you an episode per week for the next 10 weeks. So we will go through the series as fast as we can, because we know some of you are watching with us and some of you are binging it, and we hope you enjoy the PikeCast either way.
Yes, and just as a little note, if you want to leave Netflix on in the background and just have the show running at all times, that will greaten the chances of us getting more Pike adaptations in the
100%, yeah.
Please help us help you.
Just
we need
turn
more.
it on and leave it.
The first 2 weeks are the most important to do that too. I think that's when they judge it.
Yeah. Let's go. We got this. Everybody communicate. Put them all on.
So until next time, everybody, pleasant dreams.
I really like your go.
Thank you. I was trying something new. I had wooed so many times.
You survived the night, friends. You can peek out from under your covers and see the first blues of dawn out the window. Thanks for spending the night with the PikeCast, and we hope you'll join us again next time. Until then, Pikers, pleasant dreams.
I'm Cooper Beckett, and I'm thrilled to be joined by my lovely co-hosts.
Cassie, this was
Hi, I'm so sorry. Hi, I'm...
We just did that. We just talked about it.
I'm so sorry. Hang on. Okay, here we go. I'll do it. I'll just start.
Cassie, how about you?
Okay. Sorry.
Like you're going to perform.
I know. I was like, that was a little dramatic. Cassie, slow down.
Very dramatic.
Okay, I'm sorry. And if you join, you also get some free. What's the word for goodies?
Swag.
Goodies. Swag. Thank you. For some reason, I was
goodies.
Okay, I'll do
good.
Goodies.
Yeah.
Okay. If you sign up, you'll get some free.
Okay, we're almost there, ladies. We're almost
here we go. I got this. Last chance.